So if you're ever using a hole saw, that is the best way. Welcome back. So we're here at the front house for a change. Haven't actually given you a tour of the place. I'm gonna let Xana do that though, or maybe we'll do a walkthrough together. But we're only just starting here. So we're in, the place is vacant, and first things first, as with many projects like this, security on this house, I'm finding out, is not very tight. So we got a door, and it does have a bit of trouble. And it's definitely not secure, no less because of this. This door is probably, it looks like it's may even have been kicked in at one point. I have no idea. But at any rate, I'm going to be drilling in a new deadbolt, and I'm not super concerned about the door itself. It will eventually get replaced, but this is an immediate measure that we're going to take. So we're going to get the deadbolt installed, and I got to board up the rear door. It was never really functional. It does open, but it's not super functional. So I'm just going to board that for the time being, and I'll very quickly be getting more doors in. But this is sort of just something you do when you first get into a property like this, is you get it kind of, you know, locked up and ready to go. We will be moving some stuff in shortly, and this is a lot closer to the road, a lot more visible and accessible. So we're gonna have to be a little more cautious here. I'm a little sloppy at the back, but definitely want to take a few more precautions here. So let's get to it. All right, so first things first, we're going to close up the door. And we want to make sure that our latch, and I'm just going to put it here. It really doesn't matter. Maybe up here. It really doesn't matter in this case because the whole thing is getting replaced eventually. But this will work indefinitely for us. So I'm just going to make a mark that's the same from here to the jamb, because we want our striker plate and the hole that's in the striker plate to match the latch positioning. And all that takes is making sure you do these lines together. Really nothing to it. All right, so now, there we go. This side. Okay. So that's our mark there. This is the handiest time saver right here. So this is specifically for doing doors. So this one here, and they're all maybe a little bit different, but they do the same thing. I can see here, actually, this is a thicker door, so I'm going to adjust this. There's basically two thicknesses of door to worry about. So I'm going to snap that the other way. And this keeps me, this keeps me center right here. And then this one here, all I'm out to do is make sure that that hole lines up with the doorknob below. And it does. Sometimes it does go further out, and when you get your handles or your deadbolts, the latches or the bolts are usually adjustable for the two sizes. So in this triangle here, I'm just going to hunt down my mark. There you are. And from behind, I'm just going to clamp it down. Make sure it's decently tight, not enough you're going to bust it, but you don't want this to move at all. You want this to be nice and firm, exactly where it is. I know Ryobi makes one, I used Ryobi for the longest time because I found the quality was okay. But this DeWalt one was on sale one time and I wound up getting it. But they're very simple mechanisms. I'm not super picky about brand when it comes to things like this. So if anybody thinks I'm a brand snob, that's absolutely not the case. I'm a very practical buyer when it comes to this. If it's something that I'm only expecting to use, once, twice a year at the most, I'm not going to spend a ton of money on it. It's just not worth it. If it's something I use on a very regular basis, I usually do my research and make sure I'm getting the, the best bang for buck, basically. So with a hole saw, there's two things to watch for. So one of the conveniences here, and you're going to want to pay attention to this if you're ever doing something similar, we have access to both sides of what we're drilling through. So there's two things about a hole saw that you should be aware of. So tear out, it's that ugly thing that happens when you tear the wood instead of cutting it. That mostly happens on the exit of your cut. So as I go through, if I go all the way through, I'm going to get a ton of tear out on the other side. That's pretty normal. The other thing that happens is the plug, which is basically what I cut out, gets inside here. They're very difficult to take out. They have these slots in here so you can jam a screwdriver in and pry it out a bit. But we have access to both sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill through far enough for this pilot bit in the middle to reach the other side. Once it's on the other side, I'm going to take it out and I'm going to drill from the back and you'll see what happens. So what you'll notice is we got a nice clean hole over here, and this plug, because it's not fully inserted, is very easy to remove. So if you're ever using a hole saw, that is the best way. Now you can't do that every time, and you'll notice for the next one we won't be able to do that, so I'll do that now. So a lot of times I'd use a spade or something else, but these are the tools that come with it, so I'll just show you with that. So this one here, we can't access it from the other side, obviously. So this one we're going to go straight through and you'll see what a pain it becomes. So now, you see I can't get the plug out unless I go into these slots. And that's a real pain. And maybe this one's not so bad. But as you can see, this is a lot more effort than just taking it out the other side. And when you're doing a series of holes, it's very annoying. And then I'm going to show you as well. So it really doesn't matter here, just because it's inside. But that's the tear out that I was talking about. See this wood? It's really annoying when that happens on the face of something you're working on. So if you can avoid that at all costs, do so. So next, I'm going to come over here to my other mark. So now we want to drill out for the deadbolt. So I'm using a Forstner bit this time. Typically I'd use a spade or something else, but I had this available and my spade bit set is, I left it at work, so that's what we'll do. So when centering this, you should double check. You check for center on the door, but they're almost always 7/8 in, and this one is no exception. Alright. Well, the other benefit of using something like a Forstner bit is it tends to drill a little bit flatter. Most spade bits have they have a bit of contour on the end to give it more bite and make it more aggressive. The result of that is you generally wind up going right through the door frame. The deadbolt doesn't always have to go through the entire frame. And it's annoying when it does, because it does leave it exposed to the other side. They make little inserts and things to cover that up. But if you can avoid that, once again, that's just something worth avoiding. So with this, if it's not deep enough, I could just drill it in a little bit further. And we're going to be checking that before putting the striker plate on. So, just so you're aware, this is what I was talking about before, that they're adjustable. So this is the shorter position. If you twist this while it's out, it grows. So, and also worth noting, a lot of these will say up. That matters. So make sure you position it properly. So the way I do these, I don't bother measuring it out. Oh my, I gotta. Oh, maybe I did that the shorter one. I did. There we go. Yeah, that's right. Thought I did the longer one, I didn't. Okay. So first thing I do, I actually put it in place and I'll screw it down for this part. And the objective is we're gonna mortise this in to the door itself. So if you're not confident you're gonna get it nicely centered with your screws, I would recommend using a center punch or something just to get it in the position you want. Because if you get the screw in the wrong spot, it will float it, and then it's a real bear to try and get it in the right position afterwards. So you kind of want it right the first time. I'm being a little reckless, I guess, but at any rate. Okay, so the reason I did this, first of all, it pilots it where I want it. So these screws, this is exactly where it's going even after it's recessed. These holes are going to stay in after I mortise this section out. And it puts it in a really good position. I'm going to use a knife to score all the way around, and I'm not going to be doing any super deep cuts. I'm going to do that with the chisel, but the knife just gives you a much more accurate mark. And it's always nice when you got square plates when you're doing this. They're a lot easier than trying to cut these little curves in. And if you're doing this for the first time, I would expect to make a couple mistakes. I know the first ones I did not look pretty. I got much better as I went along. I used to do these in like row houses and things like that, and I got pretty quick at it. Usually I take a little bit more time on that part, but I'm not super concerned. Okay, so technically the wrong size chisel. I prefer a 3/4. This is a 1 inch, but we'll make it work. So you can't cut in a curve like that with a chisel. So I'm going to complete those curves with a knife and these small sections, and then I'm going to come in with the chisel and just clean up. And the trick is, after you get it scored, when you're using a knife, if you're on a really shallow angle like this, you can be a lot more accurate, but it's not going to cut as deep. But if you already have a score, it's going to be inclined to follow the score. So you can actually raise it up like that, and you can get it a lot deeper without having to worry too much about messing up your lines. You just got to watch that the knife doesn't slip away on you. That could be a real problem. So with chisels, if you have a really sharp chisel, you should just be able to push and it'll work. The problem with that on this is you have a tendency to go further just because it's a very continuous pressure, and this wood is actually going to give and just flop out on you. So what I prefer to do instead, and if your chisel's not super sharp, just use a hammer, it's fine. But just little taps, that way it's not any sort of continuous pressure and it's not going to keep going past what you really want. You hold it upside down. See, just gave. Just like that. Just a hair deeper. We'll just come back with the knife and clean up these edges. And you always want to make sure you're starting with a very sharp knife. If you're using a dull knife, you're not going to get too far. If these stick out at all, they'll catch on the door frame and you'll really start to notice that in a hurry. So it's okay to have it in a bit, not out. Beautiful. I'll bet that's it. Oh, that's beautiful. That's perfectly flush. Look at that. All right, we'll go ahead and screw that in, but not tight. That's another thing, is you don't really want to crank everything down until the very end. And if you're dealing with a really cheap lock set like I am here, if you over crank, especially the actual handle portion or deadbolt portion, sometimes it can actually it can bog down the mechanism, make it stick and stuff like that. Sometimes if your handle or whatnot is sticky, the quick solution is to just loosen some of the screws a little bit. Is finding the hole on the other side. Sometimes you got to hunt around a little bit. I've gotten a little bit of practice over the years, so I'm pretty quick at it now. That used to be the part that frustrated me the most. All right. So now we're going to close the door up. And I want to see if my hole is in fact deep enough, so I'm just going to close it. And if it reaches, oh, this door doesn't shut all the way. That's annoying. I might have to address that first. So it closes all the way, but it is tight. So this frame might be some aftermarket weather stripping, who knows, but it's not being held back all the way. So with that hole, I'm going to take that hole and I'm actually going to bring it forward, and I'm going to keep doing that until it works properly, and then I'm going to put my striker plate on centered over where it does work. It can be a real pain trying to locate just how far I want to go. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this out, and I know it's along this edge here, so I'm just going to rub my pencil on there like crazy. Get lots of graphite on there. And we're going to close up the door. I'm going to put it where I want it, and I'm going to press against it. So I'm going to keep a little bit of pressure on that. I'm just going to jiggle it a bit. So now, when I bring it back, you can see our mark there now. Oh, having trouble with the camera here. So you can see it right along there. So that's where it was hitting. So that's a pretty common issue, and it's not a big deal at all. Sometimes you just got to make these little micro adjustments. So now we know where we're going, and I'm going to go just a little bit past that, just to be in the clear, and we're going to keep it tight using our striker plate. So because I already have a hole here, this isn't going to be too much of a challenge. I'm just going to square up with what I got there. But you got to score it a little bit, and then you come in this way, and it'll just keep breaking off for you. And it's not so bad. We're just going to take that down to the bottom and try it again, see what happens. Looking not too bad. Let's give it a whirl. Should click all the way. That's not bad. Now the trick is, because if it's not somewhat effortless, what happens is you have a lot of trouble doing it with the key. So we're ready to get that striker plate on. Alright, so unfortunately they give you a pretty small striker plate, so I bet, yeah, we got a little bit of exposure there. We'll live with it. So we want to be right about there. Annoying as that is, whatever. Alrighty. Nice and firm. That's it.